In this final lesson, we're going to tidy up some of these variables, and I'm going to attach 3 more scripts, one for the door, one for the gas tank, and another one for the camera. Now, we're not going to be writing all of these scripts by scratch. I'm just going to go quickly through them. I'd like to have prevalence on the topic at hand and just keep ourselves focused and not be overwhelmed by a large collections of scripts. In accordance to the structure of our tutorials, I'd like to utilize the fundamental knowledge that we've gotten from more previous lessons, specifically the rock and feather example, in a more advanced scripts that I'm going to attach in the objects here. First one is going to be very similar to the feather, a switch from a rigid body to a soft body, which I named Gas Tank Manager. And you can find the gas tank right up here. It's going to be called tank. And I'm not going to assign this specifically to this object. First, I'm going to duplicate this tank 2 times. Name one of them Gas Tank Manager. One of them Gas Tank Hard. And the last one, Gas Tank Soft. Now, like I said, this is going to be a very analogous script onto the feather, and this will give us an option to either switch from a tank which will have some dents in it, or just be a very rigid container. And I'm going to just drop both of these as children of this manager. And now what I'm going to do here is attach a rigid body, or I can do it either way. Rigid body, and now I'm going to add a collider, capsule collider. Probably want to reduce the radius a little bit up here. Height, and set this up along the x-axis. Okay. Now, considering this is going to be the manager, I do not need any of these visual components. For the soft tank, however, I'm going to go into this component field, and I'm going to add a cloth renderer. And remember, if I add a cloth renderer, interactive cloth is going to be added by default. Okay, so hopefully these parameters do look familiar from the rock and feather example, and I have already experimented with this tank to get the collapsing effect that I want, and I've wrote down the values in a notepad. So right now I'm just going to copy from that notepad and explain the reasons why I chose the values that I did. So for one, we want this tank to be quite rigid, but not too rigid to still leave a dent. So I'm going to keep the bending and the stiffness at a maximum of 1, and I also want to give it a damping of 1 as well. Now currently the thickness is at 0.2, which means the tank will be quite sensitive to how it collapses. We don't want it to look like a plastic bag, so we do want to bump this up. I'm going to bring it up to 1. Okay, gravity self-collision, I'm going to leave as default. Next parameter I want to modify is actually external acceleration. Now what's going to happen when we switch from the rigid body to a soft body is that the soft body won't actually know that the rigid body had force applied, because it's not a rigid body. But we do want it to continuously move as it switches from one game object to another. So to do so, I want to apply some external acceleration. I'm going to give it value of 50. Now, before I apply the mesh, I'm actually going to go and I'm going to disable the mesh renderer and the mesh filter, because the cloth renderer will provide that for us. Let's select the mesh. You'll see it up here. Okay, the material will assign in just a second. Friction I want to bump up to 1. Density, that's fine as it is. Pressure, I'll set it to 1. Collision response 0. Both of these are irrelevant because we're not using an attached collider. And tear factor I'll leave at 0. Okay, let's go a little lower. It needs a material to be supplied. Choose gas tank here. And we're done setting up the cloth. Now currently there is no parameter to make it switch. We're going to be setting up a trigger. Remember triggers, the way that we switched our rigid body to a cloth? we're going to be doing the same, and we're going to be, once again, setting up a separate script for that. We're going to create a collider and make it pretty large. Create cube. It seems huge, but it's actually good size. All we care about is the collider. And we're going to drop off another script on it called doorman. So just drop this on, give it a name. Now there's going to be a few reference variables up here. It's going to be gate left and gate right. So just click on gate left, type in gate left, tap on gate right, type in gate right. We'll start off the game. You want these to be off. We're going to take both of these up here in the entry light and drag them on from the hierarchy. One in element 0 and one in element 1 of this light array. Another thing that we are allowed to toggle here is the speed of the lights turning on and how fast the door opens. I'm just going to start off with 1. That should be a pretty good value. There is one function in the doorman script which I would like to address with you, so let's just take a look at it really quick. All I'd like you to pay attention to are just these two functions, untrigger enter, untrigger exit. That means when the hero is going within the boundaries of this collider, which is a trigger, do something up here. This parameter is going to pass on whatever is going to be colliding with it, and I only want our hero to be affected by this. So I'm going to check, hey, is this game object's name hero? If it is, do this, and otherwise don't do anything. And this is just simply passing a parameter to this coroutine, and whether it's true, that means open the gates. When it's false, close the gates. So when the character exits out the gates, it's going to close them. When he enters, he will open them because of these parameters here. In a similar script, I'm actually going to attach onto our hero. So to save up resources a little bit, I only want the tank to turn into a soft body when it's going to hit our hero. And for this, I'm going to need a collider trigger in order to make that change happen. So I'm going to, as always, go into physics, create a box collider. And there it is. Move it up a little bit. And let's just see what happens if I multiply everything by 2. Yeah, that's pretty good. Let's just bump this up a little bit. Okay, looks pretty good. Want to make sure that this is a trigger. Now I want to attach this script to it, which is going to be called tank toggle, which is going to be turning the tank from a rigid to soft body. And then I also want to make sure that our doorman script is not a collider, but is a trigger. Otherwise, we simply will not be able to get to the gates. Let's give it a go, shall we? I want to move a little bit close to the doors, launch our guy. Okay, and I want to send the barrel after him. Okay, we're pretty much done with the course. Let's just indulge ourselves and do a little cleanup and fix some of these variables up. So first of all, I don't want a blue screen. I'm not setting up the stars, but at least want it to be space black. Let's go into the camera, into the hero, main camera, camera here, background from blue to just pure black. Okay, now let's go to our hero, tweak some of these variables so he won't be running around super fast. Just gonna divide this by 2. And lastly, I just want to drop off one script from the Unity library. And this script is going to look at the character, which is fairly simple, and it's simply going to have the camera look at the character. So to import it, go ahead and go to Assets, Import Package, and Scripts. Okay, there's not too many up here. All we want, I'm going to click on None, is this smooth follow. Okay, looks like it finished importing. Scripts, camera scripts, smooth follow, and I'm going to drop this onto the camera. Within our new smooth follow script here, I am just going to drop off the rig in the target. I'll make this window a little bit bigger. I still want to see the scene view just to see everything that's happening. Maybe bring this down a little bit to 9. Height to 4. Okay. And let's do some launching. We can see that we're going through some of the walls. And to be honest, there are actually better follow scripts out there in the Unify community. But just for the sake of this course, this default Unity script will do. Anyway, enough talking. Okay, there goes our guy. Now let's launch the barrel after him. Hopefully you've understood the power of rigid bodies, that I can take the position in any movement and in any angle, and then still be able to get physical verisimilitude as far as how the rigid bodies are going to be affected and how the character will be affected. Thanks for watching. I hope to be learning with you next time.